Alan said, I've been to 4 of these conferences and they're quite fun. But Alan came to me and he asked me if I'd come to this conference and just speak more about my story and my experiences. And so then here I am, doing that. So, a little background about myself, native Texan, right? AC is nice, Texas. I grew up going to a private school. There's very little technology there, and that's sort of what brought me into the tech realm. I wanted to, explore that area. And so it started with filming. I love film. I go watch movies all the time. All those effects, little explosions are always fun to mess around with. So it started with filming, and me and my friends loved to make films. We would download them onto the computer and edit them, and that's when I shifted from film to the computer. And that was around 5th, 6th grade. That was a lot of fun. And so I went from that to being interested in the computer. I wanted to learn about the computer. What was its power? What was its capabilities? The idea of, untapped potential in this area. So by around 8th grade, I experienced enough with the computer to feel comfortable that I, in my own terms, mastered the computer. I could use it any way I wanted to use it. But the idea hit me. I wanted to create the computer. Once I'd mastered something, I wanted to create and build on top of that. And so, freshman year of high school, I had the idea to build an iPhone app. And so I went to my school, and they didn't have any courses for the area I was interested in, which is to be expected. I mean, iPhone apps isn't your typical everyday assignment. But I went to the school, they didn't have anything. So I had no other choice but to turn to online sources, which is something Alan is big on, is getting information from the web. I had to turn online. So I spent the next 6 months rushing home from school, finishing my homework, and learning a new language, Objective-C, which is a programming language used to program the iPhone. So all my spare time was used on that. A lot of sacrificed time with friends I would spend learning this language. And another thing that was, despite the lack of help online, I was able to find communities, pockets of communities that had my same interest. It was a global online resource was what it was. And it was just other people in my same situation, bouncing ideas off each other, trying to help each other through it, and that was a huge help in me creating my first app. But another unique thing about this situation was that as I was learning the language, since it was online and since it was a program, I got immediate feedback on what I was learning. So if I was learning a certain function and I mistyped it or I got it wrong, the program would instantly tell me I made an error. I wouldn't have to wait the next day and see, if I did it wrong on paper. No, I got feedback immediately and was able to immediately correct myself. Same thing with the online community. Those guys were on there 24/7 there to help, which was great. And so, as I said, 6 months into freshman year, I finished my first app in January. And it took about 50,000 lines of code, which if you type that on paper or on a normal size font, 12 font, that's 1,000 pages of paper. And it took hundreds of hours. But that was where my passion lied. So these are 3 things I'm going to talk about, and just main points I want you to think about as I go on, is in education, should we be teaching students to be self-directed, as I went? Should we be doing that? And I'm going to go into this in a bit on another story I have, but should school assignments and projects be more for than just a grade? As Alan said, they gave him a 70, but he knew everything. So should projects be more than just a grade? And should students help contribute to creative learning in the schools? So here's another story is, after freshman year, sophomore year came around, and I was in Chem 1, which is very tough. Which was confusing. Anyway, so I was in chemistry, and I had a very cool teacher. His name was Mr. Kwong. I gotta give credit to him because he was awesome. He did a lot of explosions. As I said, I like those. Anyway, so he came to me, or he actually came to the whole class. He came to the whole class and he said, I'm going to give you guys an option. You can either take the test next week, or instead, you can make a program, in this case an app, that will teach this unit that we've been doing. It's a very unique idea. And another thing that's interesting here is, how much trust do you think he had to put into the student to allow the student to do this? This guy doesn't know how to make a program. He doesn't know how to make an app. He knows the curriculum, what he's teaching. The amount of trust he put into the students to allow them to do this was significant. And so I took him on the offer, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was the only one, so but anyway, so I did it, and I worked significantly more hours. I worked a lot more hours on the app than I would have studied. I would have studied probably about, 4 or 5 hours for the test. I spent 50 hours on the app. Spent a lot more time on it. And here's the other thing. When you create an app, when you program, you have to break everything down to the essentials and to the basics. So there's a lot of comprehension going on. So in my case, instead of me spending 5 hours memorizing stuff for a subject, I was spending 50 hours breaking down and understanding the fundamentals, I can't speak, the basics of basically chemistry. And on that unit, I had to understand everything that was going on, all the charges, all that. So I had to break it down. And as a result, I understood it better. I completely understood the material. But another interesting thing was in doing this and creating this app, I had unintentionally created something that others could use. And as you know, there's the App Store. Anyone with an iOS device can download this. Anyone around the world could download what I had created and learn the material that I'd gone over. And so it's just a huge enlightening moment for me, like, wow, I've created something that anyone can use and learn what I've learned. And so some of the faculty at our school discovered this, and Alan discovered this as well. And he pushed this, and so we had this idea of students, helping students. And so our school approved, with Alan's help, a class where all the students created the curriculum for the students next year. So me and a few other students were in charge of creating what we called, it was a game class. We were going to create video games, which all the guys are going to sign for that one. So, and it was interesting how this one teacher who had allowed me to make this project had influenced the entire curriculum for this new class. There's one teacher, and now we got this whole new curriculum for this class led by students. Very amazing there. Another thing this creation of this new class, it created global connections for the students, in particular me. And any of the students that were there. The games we were creating had to do 3-dimensional modeling and mathematics and online stuff. And since I was creating that, I went online, and now I'm working with a team, an international team, to create a game that will be released in stores worldwide and downloaded. So the connections that this creates is just ridiculous. But it was basically, again, this group of international teams. It's just a group of people that want to learn this area, want to create in this area, want to publish and show the world what they've done. And again, that started really. This is something me and Alan really wanted. It started by me and the teacher who was helping me at the time going to one of these conferences. Having a student come to this conference would be great, especially if they work with the teachers and students coming to these things, hearing these ideas, applying them together can have a really good impact. And so here's where I think a pattern emerges. Learning stimulates creativity, and creativity stimulates learning. So I learned something in chemistry. I created something that creation, someone else looks at it, learns from it, and then creates and builds on top of that. But, and it's sort of the cycle of learning, creating, creating. But we don't often see this in schools. It's just learning. Very little creativity. There's very little room for creativity. And so something I found out was that technology is an increasingly important tool in helping students communicate, create, and learn. I mean, when technology is correctly utilized, it can be a very helpful tool in the learning process and creativity process, almost exponentially. I mean, there's so much you could do as an educator. Building an online site where students, submit, lessons and teach each other and help each other out. Connect around the world with another class. Get the experience of having different cultures and, understanding someone else and working with someone else on a project on the other side of the world. Something like that's just opportunity. It's very rare. Students would love that. But once again, at the end of the day, it's the creativity that matters, not the technology. The technology is just used to help get to the creativity. And so, all the stuff I've done, it started from creativity, but it wouldn't have been possible without the technology. And technology, it's a very, very powerful tool, but it needs to be wielded correctly in order to advance our students' futures. And you guys know this, as an administrator or a teacher, your impact is huge on this sort of thing. I mean, you guys can make a huge impact in these students' lives and their futures. And as I've said, this is my fourth one to attend. I mean, the impact that these conferences have had on me, I mean, you can look at my life and see that these conferences have had an impact on me. This all started when Alan invited me to come to his conference in Boston. This is where I began to, think outside the box and connect with my teachers and have these different ideas, create these classes. It started from going to these conferences. So I very strongly encourage you guys to just start bringing students. I mean, is there any rule against them bringing students?
Is there any rule against?
I see. Bring students. This opportunity is great for them to come.
We do.
I was thrilled when I got to hear that I was going to Boston. I was so excited. I got to go on a plane, to my hotel, and get to work with some awesome people. So it's just a great opportunity. I think we should bring students. But as a student myself, I would encourage you guys to think outside of the box, and on ways to implement technology into the curriculum to create more creative students. And I guarantee you will see results if you do that. And so, once again, just going over those 3 points that I stated earlier, we need to teach the ability to learn and be creative. The students will be creative. We need to teach them the ability to learn and execute that. And then on school assignments and projects, just publish something. Create an assignment where they put it online. See the feedback they get. One of the things I did when I created my app, one of the things I learned is that I got immediate feedback from people on what I could do to improve. If you want students to get peer feedback and improvement, publish it online. See what they get, what comments they get. Students' potential to help be creative in your school. Like, my school I'm so thankful for my school for coming to me and asking for me to help create a course. It was a great experience. I learned an incredible amount, and I helped them create a course. So students' potential to help the schools, I think, is untapped. I think our administrators should be looking to our students for ideas on how they could be changing the curriculum, influencing the curriculum, what they could be doing. Because at the end of the day, it's getting the students that knowledge. As Alan says, it's not about the grade, it's about the students and them succeeding. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I know my story is kind of unique. I mean, not the average everyday student. But what if I was? What if we restructured our system to where every student was like me? How would that impact the world? To be creative and, create your own course or develop something that's online for everyone to. How would that impact the world if every student was like that? So I'll leave you with that. Well done. Well done.